Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the Quake Champions developer stream. I am your community manager, Mortal Emperor.
And Tokyo Punch-Out over here.
Yep, and we're here at the id office. We are going to be talking about our major October update, which just dropped yesterday. Tons of new content, tons of new features, all sorts of good stuff coming out. We're going to get some scoops straight from the dev team about, Slipgate. We've got Athena.
We're gonna do performance hardening stuff.
Yeah, that's gonna be a lot of fun to talk about.
And of course we're gonna do esports stuff. Talk about upcoming events, ones that just happened, and there's some announcements in there too that I don't think anybody knows. So it'll be good.
Now I'm excited.
Yeah, I am way excited.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about what's been going on with this update. So, like we said, all new mode, Slipgate, now available to play. It's an attack and defend mode. So you've got one team that's trying to summon a giant monster out of a portal.
Like you do.
Cthulhu cultists, right? Or Catholic cultists, I should say.
Catholic. Shit, that's good.
Cultists.
I like that.
They're trying to summon the monster. The other team's got to close
You got to
the
stop
gate.
them from doing that.
You been playing?
Yeah, I've been playing because I like the deal that, weapons and pickups, you basically just are limited to health and power-ups that you have to worry about on the map, and armor, of course, but you start with all the weapons, clan arena or capture strike style, and it's great because it makes a completely different strategy, I feel like, when you play.
Yeah.
So I've been enjoying that a lot.
And speaking of, old modes, too, Rocket Arena.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely, right? Because it's a elimination, one life only per round kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there's more strategizing involved. You can't just throw bodies at the slipgate and just overwhelm the enemy team.
Yeah.
You've got to really think about how am I going to get onto that point?
That's true.
I've got full stack. I've got full health. I've got full ammo to start with. But I've only got 2 minutes to close that slipgate.
Yeah, the clock's ticking.
The clock's ticking. You can't stop their progress unless you stand on that point.
Yeah.
You got to stand on that point.
The tentacle's coming out, so
it's
something you gotta deal with. You gotta worry about. But no, it's been a ton of fun. It's been awesome seeing everybody streaming it yesterday and today. It's been super fun, and hearing how different the communication is when you have a precious life per round, and how you get different banter and you're forced to watch each other and root for each other, which is great.
It's
a little bit of downtime too, which is the first time for us in any Quake Champions mode, which has been cool.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that a little more
for sure
later in the segment. But we got to talk about Athena right at the top of the show.
Got to.
Right?
Yeah.
New champion, amazing new ability, a utility ability, a mobility ability. They're all just rhyming now.
A utility mobility ability.
Yeah.
Shit, that's a mouthful.
That's what we put on the box. That's on the tin.
Print it and frame it. It's on the tin. Oh, we went that. Okay, we embossed it. That's good. That's true.
Yeah. So she's cool.
She's amazing. She's gonna change the game in every way because we've only now been seeing her. A lot of people are playing her in Slipgate, of course. I've seen people run around with her in other modes, but just wait to see what happens with competitive play with her because that's going to be nuts.
Yeah.
It's going to be a whole different approach to, I think, how you take almost every encounter because now you've got someone literally swinging in from angles that no one else could do.
Right.
So it's going to be cool.
if you want to get an idea of what kind of things you can do with her, you can check out the tutorial on our YouTube channel. It's up there, and it explains how to swing, how to use that momentum. Her passive, the ramp jump, is really cool.
Awesome,
there's actually, we'll probably show it on our community stream about a week from now. But already we've seen people do crazy things with the grappling hook, right? Attaching it to Peeker. I've seen people attach it to Sorlag and just go a million miles around the map. But
letting him lead the way, as it were.
Yeah, but a couple folks actually put together a video they shared with me yesterday night before we flew out here that was all ramp jump stuff and all the crazy places you can get in ramp jump. So
just ramp jump.
Yeah.
Like parkour all over Quake Champions.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Into it.
So what else we got?
Well, with all that stuff, we're bringing the first ever in-game event. That's a community-wide thing, which is Slipgate Festival. So the basic deal with that is we set some goals as far as how many Slipgate matches played, and as soon as we just play those matches as a community together, we all reap the benefits. And we'll get into exactly what those individual prizes are, but the last one and most importantly is unlocking Athena permanently for everybody. And if you already have her, like you're a Champions Pack owner, bless you. You paid your bills. You're a great tenant on the servers. You get her lore skin, which is super tight because her lore skin is straight out of.
It's straight out of Quake 2.
Yeah,
it is. It is that green armor. It's got the shoulder pads.
Yeah,
that's what everybody wants. You want the shoulder pads.
Yeah.
Like it's so iconic.
Yeah,
the ponytail.
Gotta have it.
Gotta have the ponytail.
Yeah.
It's
like straight up jungle warfare outfit.
Yeah,
so tight.
She just looks so cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's unlocking all that stuff for free.
That's right.
Which is amazing.
But wait, there's more because it's October, which is Quaketober, which is Spooky Fest, which is spooky time, and we couldn't just leave everybody out in the seasons changing, crispy leaves on the ground out there by themselves. We got to throw some stuff at them in game, right? So what are we gonna do?
So we've got Halloween bundles all month long. Every week there's going to be a different bundle, and there is some spectacularly spooky stuff that you can get. I had to roll off the Quaketober thing, man. I was like formulating something up there. But there's some cool vanity items that you can pick up that are only in these bundles. You can only pick them up in these bundles, only for a limited time. But they are super cool and very worth it. And we'll actually show off what those are in a little later in the show. Yeah.
And then last but not least, like we said, we're going to dive into to the performance updates that we've been doing, specifically the game hardening for October. So we'll have our buddy JD on the stream again, which you guys remember from the last couple dev streams, who's always a pleasure because we can pick his brain, we can get into the depths of how all this crazy stuff actually works under the hood, which is really cool.
Yeah. And so we're gonna take a quick break and talk to them about that. I will say very quickly, because I saw a couple people, Charlizard and Plague TV, a couple other people in chat right now asking, where are we at with the Slipgate counter? We'll talk about that.
We will talk about that.
It's been very, very interesting already on day one.
You guys have been killing it.
You're killing it, and it's. I got numbers in my inbox this morning, and I was looking at them, and I was like, all right. So we'll talk about that later. But we'll leave you on the tether.
We'll leave you on the tether,
grappling hook,
and a shout out to Nick's low health voice, which is a great name. Quaketober. That's right.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Quaketober.
Did you know what month it is?
Yeah.
Hashtag Quaketober.
Hashtag
Slipgate.
All right, we're gonna take a break.
Yeah.
You'll be back in a second.
Yep.
We'll see you
BRB
in a moment.
Welcome back. Joined with me right now is Jason Lyons, game programmer and game mode programmer for id and Quake. Welcome, man. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. So, I know we've introduced you before. We talked, what was it, maybe almost a month ago?
Yeah.
But just to do some background here, this isn't your first id game doing game modes on, right?
No, it isn't, actually.
So you did some for Doom, am I right?
I did a fair bit of work on Doom, actually.
Nice.
A lot of weapon stuff.
Oh, cool.
As well. If you like the hell shot, that was basically all me.
Dude, Ketchup, P&D Ketchup, who's one of our casters and talent that you'll see all the time doing streams, he is obsessed with the hell shot. We played all the time, and hell shot was his go-to. He would have whole videos where he's like, "You guys don't understand. everyone's doing double barrel, single barrel. Like, use the hell shot. This is why, like, the 3 burst is so fast, and the ult was really good. That's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. But tell us, so Slipgate is, you're in Adams, and everybody's here, baby. But in particular, let's say you're just an alien and you landed on this planet, and you're like, I want to play Quake Champions. What the hell is Slipgate? How would you describe Slipgate?
So Slipgate is an attack and defense mode where the center of the mode is this Slipgate portal that is opening up, and you've got 2 minutes to be able to close it if you're attacking in order to try and like prevent this ancient evil that's coming through the portal, or you have to try and like defend it. And each round you swap places and you basically try to see like who can come out on top after all of it. It's
Nice.
elimination style, so that means that you spawn with 1 life, and the goal was to try and make things, you know, a little bit slower paced than what TDM kind of is, because a lot of new players coming in, you know, there's a lot of things that can be kind of overwhelming, so we wanted it to just be like, you come in, you have that really initial like fun burst of like that engagement and stuff like that,
Yeah.
see who can manage to like, you know, crawl their way to the top of you know, of the pile, and then try again in another 2 minutes.
I like it. So every round you're switching whether you're attacking or defending, right?
Yep. So at the start of the game, you get the champion select screen that'll tell you basically if you're attacking or defending. You can then pick your champions at that point, and then just go into battle. We definitely liked it in playtesting too, because it gives you an opportunity to try different champions for different things. Some champions definitely tend to be a little bit better on attack than they are on defend. Some, you know, like Nyx, they can kind of like sneak in.
Yeah.
You can get, you know, behind enemy lines, potentially even telefrag somebody coming out of stealth.
Now we're talking.
Or you can use like Ranger or Athena,
Yeah.
you know, to get that mobility to try and get to the point. Sometimes if defenders like push out a little too far, you can actually get behind them and cap before they actually have a chance to respond.
One of the first matches we had played with that, it was the funniest thing because the team was supposed to be defending and they all pushed out to get armor and stuff.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who it was on my team. It might have even been John, but he just like snuck back and capped it, and they were like, "Wait, what the hell? How's the round ending?" It's like nobody was there. Everybody pushed out just a little bit too much. So
Yeah.
that's something that you have to definitely be wary of. And of course you've got the HUD up top, which is giving you the progress.
Yeah.
But I think initially people weren't paying attention to it, and they're like, "Oh, damn, I need to watch that because that's literally the most important thing in the round."
Yeah, so even though the elimination stuff is a very big core component of the match and stuff like that, and you know, a lot of rounds will end in elimination because you'll be coming up against the other team.
Yeah.
The point is a central component to it, so you got to watch for it. You have to pay attention if you're a defender.
Yeah.
You can, like, you know, there is still health on the maps and stuff like that, so if you get into some trouble, you can kind of back out and
That's
restack up.
Yeah.
And try and regroup yourself, but you do always have to kind of be careful with that, you know. Sometimes you're an attacker too, and the power-up does spawn. It spawns very late into the round, though, so
Right.
sometimes at that point you've already gotten into a bit of an engagement and stuff like that, and we've seen rounds that are really fun because you'll get like one lone attacker who can manage to like restack up, grab the power-up, go in, wipe everybody out, and then cap the point.
That's awesome.
And then it's like in the last like 5 seconds of the match too.
That's right.
It helps make it like really tense.
Because you've got the time ticking down, you've got
Yeah.
the power up spawning late, and then when you die, you give you drop like 225 health bubbles for your teammates, right?
Yeah, you drop health bubbles for your teammate,
Yeah.
and the goal for that was to try and like make sure that your team sticks together a little bit.
That makes sense.
Try to force a little bit more like team coordination, because that's also something that we wanted to make sure happens with this as a team mode, is that we want people to try and like work together a little bit more. So if you're with your team when they die, you can actually get a little bit of benefit out of it that the enemy can't, and that kind of helps keep you pushing forward, helps keep the pressure on the enemy team.
Yeah.
You know.
I think we're going to show a little bit of B-roll, and we're going to continue talking about it, but just for anybody who hasn't seen it, you can kind of get a preview of that. So let me ask you this. What are some of the inspirations and goals when you guys were designing Slipgate?
So the original inspiration of it, and the goal was kind of like, we were looking at our current landscape of modes, and we wanted to really just kind of figure out what was fun about them, what really was drawing us into them, and what new things we could try to like add to those things that helped enhance a lot of that stuff. And a lot of some of the fun of Quake being arena style is that whenever you spawn identical to what your enemy spawns at, right? And then that's that initial like opening phase of the match. There is always you really super tense because you're trying to see like who can find that edge early, right? And then see how things shake out from there. And of course, we wanted to bring in the elimination style and everything like that because we hadn't done it yet.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that we know is a big draw for people, is to just kind of, be fast, be quicker than the other guy, get that kill early, and turn that tide. And yeah, so we wanted to definitely tackle a lot of those.
Yeah.
We liked the objective as well because it definitely helps draw a lot of the action together to a specific point.
Right.
Rather than having things run long, we wanted this to be something that could definitely help force some of the action to come together, but also be really approachable to new players.
Yeah.
To have something that is easy to understand as soon as they drop in. You know what I mean? Like, if you drop in on one side, you're attacking. All you do is go to the other side, and this is your objective point. So go there.
Yeah.
So it's super simple for new people to come in. A lot of the things that we had prototyped early on were kind of complicated. Like, you had a key that you had to insert into the gate in order to start it. There was we tried like different kind of crazy respawning mechanics and stuff like that, where you'd have tokens you'd have to pick up and
to like get back into a single round kind of thing.
Exactly.
I see.
And a lot of that stuff, it was fun conceptually and at points, but it really kind of took away from a lot of the action and made it just kind of like there was a lot going on for a lot of this stuff. We wanted something that was simple, that everybody could understand, but at least that there was enough depth to it that you could try a bunch of different strategies, because we've experimented with it enough and played around with it enough, and even as a simple concept as it is, there's a lot of different ways to approach going into it with all the different champions.
It's funny because just a second ago in chat somebody mentioned the way that you play it differently based on the champions and the abilities that you have. I think it was like Mike Live.
Yes.
I mean, it makes a really good point, right? Because in traditional modes, like let's say TDM or even in Sacrifice, it's like in Sacrifice you can kind of coordinate that a little bit better, but when you have one precious life and everybody has every weapon, it's like you can get killed from any angle with any weapon by any champion, but now when you add the abilities on top of that, there's like a lot more depth to that, right?
Yeah. Especially because when you spawn, you'll start with your ability active already.
Right.
And because of the short time limit, though, you will really only be able to use that ability once.
Right.
Because you'll have to be waiting for it to respawn, and even though there's a handful of cooldown pickups around the map and everything like that, if you can manage to draw things out, you can get your ability twice, at most, really. But it's really just kind of down to like, okay, well, if you spawn with a specific champion, when do you want to use that ability? Because you probably only get it once in your single life. So you kind of go in with your favorite champ and your favorite weapon and see what you can do out of it.
Yeah.
And it just provides a lot of different variety, a lot of different things to try, and you get to try them quickly, because rounds usually, are 2 minutes max, and that means that you'll have a little bit of time to try stuff out. If you die, you get to watch your teammates and see how things go. And
in third person for the first time too, which is cool.
Yeah, third person for the first time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, like you said, I feel like there's something really cool about the fact that anybody can get in and have fun and have the full arsenal of weapons and ammo to start with. But also, I feel like we haven't even seen what the super high level of this looks. Where you made a really good point in the sense that your ability, you might only get one or at most two if you survive long enough, but that really means that when you're coordinating with your team properly, when you actually use your abilities as a team, like, has to be a little bit more thought out than, I'm playing for myself, somebody's in front of me, I want to delete them, versus, okay, but if I wait for this, like, I can put, like, my dire orb or something, or I can use my shield for clutch, like when it's even more appropriate, where we're doing like a full push instead of like I'm just defending myself versus a guy that I know my team can take as a whole or whatever. So I feel like it's opening like Pandora's box for like strategies and champions and basically how teams coordinate, which is really exciting. So
Yeah.
One final question for you: what are some dev tips, coming from your side while playing Slipgate, like that you guys have seen that have been like some optimal strategies? Because I know you guys play like every day, and I'm sure there's been some like some metas that have come out of that.
We do.
Yeah.
So the strategies that I've seen, the stuff I like to do
Yeah.
is I like going in as Nyx
Yeah.
on attack and trying to like back cap, because while defenders are sort of like waiting for you to come forward, if you can stealth in, get behind them, take one of them out before they know you're there,
Yeah.
and then try to like cap really quickly, or at least draw them off guard. It
Yeah.
puts them on the wrong foot, so that you can at least have like the rest of your team help mop them up.
Yeah, that makes sense.
On defense, I really like Galena.
Yeah.
Hell Knight's also a pretty popular choice.
Yeah.
Any champion that can basically help lock down a point
Yeah.
is pretty useful,
Yeah.
because then it kind of prevents the other team from being able to do the same thing.
Right.
Just kind of sneak in and basically take them out. If you put like a totem down on the point, it basically is help indicator of like, if someone gets there, even if they take the totem out,
Mhm.
you'll know that someone did that.
True.
So you'll know that someone's there. You try to like run back and be able to coordinate against it and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, sticking together is pretty crucial. But also take your time. Like, you don't have to rush in and everything like that. You can kind of like wait some stuff out. You can kind of wear your team down and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because if you are on attack, the defenders are going to want to stay closer to the point to try and help keep it from getting taken too quickly.
Right.
So that can be your opportunity to like deal some damage to them, back out a little bit, grab a couple like pickups from the map, get a little bit of health, get back up, and keep hitting them again. You know what I mean?
That
Maybe
makes
even
sense.
wait out the power up and then grab it and go in for one last big push if you can kind of like wait out that long.
Especially, I
You
feel
know?
like when you have them on that back foot, it's like if you can control the main pickups for health and armor around them, it's like if you guys are being smart about it, you can keep basically just decreasing their stack
Yeah.
while like still restacking and denying them the ability to do that again.
Right.
Yeah.
And as a defender, I mean, you don't need to be like, even though your focus needs to be on the point so that they don't take it from you, you
Yeah.
don't need to stand there the whole time.
Right.
But if they're going to cap from it, they do.
Right.
So you can kind of use that to your advantage and be a little bit more mobile around it,
Hmm.
and just try to like make sure to be putting as much damage on it as possible if they try to come in and take it.
Yeah.
So you have a little bit of space to play with around that. Just make sure again not to go out too far, because then they will take it from you quickly.
Right. Right. Sweet.
Um,
No, that's good stuff. I mean, I feel like it's so new that everybody's still kind of like formulating like, okay, what's the optimal strategy? What if like the team that I want? Like when we're all communicating, like who's going to be Death
Yeah.
Knight, Galena, like Ranger, Clutch? What are we doing? But it's been super exciting. Thanks again for all the hard work and getting Slipgate here, because it's rad, and we got this whole festival, of which we'll talk more about the all the cool stuff that we're basically going to earn as a community as we keep going forward at the end. But up next, we're actually going to have JD and Andre coming back to talk about game hardening, so stick around.
welcome back, everybody. So we have John Dean here. So, John, every time you've been on here, we've been talking about bots.
Yeah,
right?
The last couple times, yep.
Yeah, and so you've kind of been like the bot guy in everybody's minds, but you do a lot more stuff on the team.
Yep.
And actually, for quite a while now, you've been cranking away on the performance stuff, right?
Yeah. Just netcode issues in general, and specifically performance issues as well.
Right.
There's always been attention in the background for it, and it's been, from a feature perspective, a really busy year with a lot of features that we've had to push on. So it's kind of a juggling act sometimes, but it's always been a focus of mine.
For sure. And speaking of, like, obviously with October, all the features we've got, you said we had so much stuff during the year. And if you haven't checked out the Dev Diary, which John actually contributed to, you can, if you've looked at it, you'll see that every feature that we have added has some kind of resource cost, right?
Yeah.
Whether that's server or client, or is it mostly client?
It depends on what the feature is. Some things like champs can have both.
Mm-hmm.
So like Death Knight's a really good example. He's got a lot of special effects and everything, the flame effect and everything. So there's a lot of work there on the client side for rendering all that. It's a lot of perf considerations that you have to take into account when you're making a feature like that. But then for everything, there's also a netcode side to it as well, because obviously everything gets serialized across the network and everything needs to be sent out to everybody. And some things are more expensive than others. Obviously, hit scan weapons are cheaper for the most part than like projectile weapons. Of course, Quake has a lot of projectile weapons.
Yeah, because you're physically simulating something in the world, right?
Yep.
And it has to travel, client side hit detection. It has to see, and the server has to say like, okay, did that work or not?
Yep.
So yeah. So this whole like game hardening pass, we've been talking about it a little bit. And people have been hearing about it. Maybe what's the high level for this?
So with a game like ours, with any kind of shooter, obviously performance is incredibly important. I talked about it a little bit with the Dev Diary, just kind of calling out that frame rate, FPS, which is the kind of the common denominator of what we measure in a game, is important. But even more important than that is frame time. So, and basically what that is that your frame rate is the number of frames you're doing in a second. Your frame time is how long it takes to render each of those frames. Now, if you have a real beefy machine, you can have a high frame time or a fluctuating frame time, and you can kind of just absorb it, and you won't notice it as much because you got a really good CPU, you got a really good video card, that type of thing. But if you have like a min-spec machine or a lower spec machine, you get more and more sensitive. I mean, you could be sensitive at any layer, any level with a frame time issue if it's too much, or if it spikes too much. But as you get lower on the spec side, you start to feel it more, and that's one of the things for any shooter that you want to solve. The most important thing with things like frame time is consistency more than anything else.
I mean, to visualize this, it's like, as you said, it's people talk in terms of like, oh, I get 60 FPS or I get 120 FPS, right? But if you break that down into, maybe at 4 milliseconds you're rendering, this many of those frames, and then you might have a period where you don't have anything being rendered, and then it, towards the tail end of a second. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, we would call those the hitching.
Yeah, right. And that's what causes sort of that stutter that people talk about. Some people think it's a network issue. It's actually more of a frame time issue.
It can be. It absolutely can be, and that's the thing. And that's, like I say, where the consistency comes into play. That's one of the most important things, because when things are consistent, your brain can like kind of take that into account, and you can solve anything. I mean, you can have low frame rates or anything like that, but if it's consistent, you can kind of solve for it in your mind. I mean, I remember playing Quake 3 with like a 256K or 56K rather connection, and it was like, because it was consistent, I was lucky to have a consistent connection. I could kind of account for a lot of things, but if it was spiky or whatever, the game would kind of feel terrible. So it's that way for any shooter, and it's one of the things that we're really focusing on right now, is just getting the consistency across the board, so that it feels very even and very smooth for you.
Right. And it's funny that you mentioned that. Like, even me, speaking of like Quake 3 and having consistent connections, I remember I had 2 internets way back in the day, like I had my good internet connection that I paid
Yep.
for, and then back when you had like free ISPs and stuff.
Yeah.
And that was when I ran out of hours on the good one.
Yep.
Then you got to go to the other one, and you know.
Yeah.
That's where you run a little bit of the higher paying stuff, or maybe a little bit of that choppiness. But like, yeah, definitely, you know, obviously smoothness is such a huge factor for
It's
Quake.
one of the most important things, and that's everywhere. It's not just frame time, like I say. It's the net code as well, and also just your network performance. Like, you know,
Right.
what's going on in your network. When I was in college, I played a lot on the network, and there'd be a lot of, you know, sharing it with other people. And there'd be some days everyone's downloading the new hot game or something, and it's like, it's just not gonna have a good day today.
Yeah. It's like
Basically.
that's when you're shouting at the walls, like, get off! Like I'm trying to do stuff
exactly.
here.
It's like, come on, guys.
Trying to play a match. But you know, so we did do some
Yes.
netcode stuff.
Yep.
Specifically around things like I know you mentioned the ghost inputs.
Yeah,
things like
desync issues was a
Desync
big
issues.
issue. Was a big one, and then yeah, the ghost inputs as well, which it kind of it had been fixed earlier in the year, and it just kind of came back. So we,
Like a ghost does, and it's
Yeah.
just like, oh, it's back now.
yeah, so we tracked that one down and got that sorted out. So and just to go into a little bit of detail with the desync issue,
Mhm.
you know, there's, you know, on any kind of game where you have a server and a client, usually there's basically a representation of the game it's the most accurate and up to date that's on the server.
Right.
And what you're seeing on the client is basically in the past, essentially. It's your present,
Mhm.
but from the server's perspective, it's the past.
Right.
So you're always going to have a little bit of like inconsistency from that regard. So, you know, in shooter games, we do all kinds of tricks to like do client prediction, or we try to smooth that out, you know, with how much data we send to you and how smartly we send it to you and those types of things, so
Right.
that we can get as good of a feel on your side. You don't see those desync issues. You don't see any kind of popping or rubber banding or anything like that. One issue in particular that we saw that was a wacky one. It was rare, but it did happen every now and again, is where the server and your attacker would
Mhm.
say, hey, this guy's facing this way. And you would see
Right.
him as facing away from you.
Right.
But they were actually facing towards you, but you would see them facing somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they would be attacking you, and it's like, wait a minute, he's actually
Like,
facing
like
off
how
to
did
the
that
side.
happen?
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
like, how did you
see
do
the
that
clips
shot?
of it that people would post, and it's just like, oh, well, how did that happen? Okay.
Yeah, how did you get that shot? So it was just an issue there
Right.
between just the lag between the server and the client, and just some bad information. You got a desync case
Right.
there. So and that was fixed, and now you see, actually, if they're attacking you see exactly
Exactly
where
where
they're at.
they
So
are
now
at.
you can dodge and avoid it, because you can
Nice,
see exactly
nice.
that they've got the beat on you.
Yeah.
So that's just one example of everything.
I remember you were telling an analogy when you and I were talking about this, like, what was it, maybe a month or so ago? But you had this great analogy where you talked about, you know, the server is like, as you said, it sees everything that's happening in real time. But for the clients, it's sort of like if everyone were to close their eyes in a room
Yeah.
and shuffle around,
Yeah.
and then when they open their eyes, the reality is where they're at now.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Basically, you're getting the information from the server, which in the case of the analogy is like your eyes looking out on the world, you know, and
Yeah.
you see everything. And if you thought about it like, hey, your eyes, let's say you close your eyes for a couple seconds, or you only open them once a second, or
Right.
something like that, and people were moving around you, you have this map in your head of where everyone's at and where everyone's moving. But to some degree, it's not going to be 100% accurate.
Mhm.
And so that it just kind of illustrates just a real high-level example of kind of the situation that you have in any game, basically,
Right.
that has a server and a client, where the server has all the information, and it sends out updates at a fixed tick rate, and then you get them, and then you have to kind of do some degree of prediction and just kind of guessing to some degree, you know, on your side that, okay, he's moving this way, you know, in 10 milliseconds, he should still be heading that way. But, you know, the faster the game is, the more that there's a chance that you can get out of sync, because if you're moving really fast, you can do a correction and you can start moving off. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of things like that. So those are always important things that we always, in any FPS shooter, we always like work on, and it's really important
Right.
things to solve. So.
And as you said, you know, sometimes it does come down to, you know, individual connections, individual hardware, and things like that. Like if your own server is or your own ISP, your connection is getting slammed a little bit. Maybe there's a lot of people
Yeah.
using the Wi-Fi in the house. You know, you got to shout downstairs like get off Netflix and things like that.
Yeah, there's to a degree, obviously, it always comes down to the hardware and the network connection that you have. But there's a lot that we do on our side to kind of mitigate that as much as possible,
Right.
and give you that that kind of balanced experience regardless of what your configuration is.
And those netcode issues that we fixed, that benefits everybody right now?
Yeah,
Awesome.
those are common across the board,
Awesome.
regardless of what.
Regardless of connection, regardless of,
Yep.
of hardware, that's super cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And then that's also kind of where the frame time fixes that we're focusing on, not just for October, but for the foreseeable future. It's an emphasis that we're pushing on, is when you have those hitches and spikes, that also interferes with your network performance. Because if the game is taking too long to run, it's obviously not receiving any data from the server or sending anything upstream. So then when you come out of that hitch, you get that kind of rubber banding where basically the server says, wait a minute, you're kind of out of sync with the rest of the world. This is kind of where things are at, and you kind of snap to where the reality is, basically, of where the server thinks everyone is.
Yeah.
And the faster your game is, the gameplay, the more you'll notice those kinds of like hitches, and then like basically the server syncing you back up to the rest of the world, essentially, that type of thing. So again, that's one of the reasons why frame time, consistent frame time, is so important.
And we've done some things to frame time in this update, right?
Yep.
Like I know shotguns
Yep.
Was a big one, right? Because that had a cost on every time it was fired.
Yeah, we did a dive on all the weapons and found that the shotgun in particular had both a server and client cost associated with it. That was much higher than it should be. So we got that improved. That's a lot better now. And some of the other weapons, all the weapons got a pass, but that was definitely the worst offender for sure.
Yeah. Things like the gore system too, right? Like that was more of a CPU one, right?
Yeah, that's more of a client issue. There's nothing to do with the networking with that one, but I mean the gore system is amazing. I mean it's a lot of fun.
It's cool to watch.
We really love it. But as we're doing our research and everything on perf, we're finding that it can be pretty expensive, and there's definitely certain combinations of certain gore, like when you shoot somebody in a particular place or they get gored a particular way. It can be a lot more expensive than others.
Okay.
So we've done some work actually starting since September to make those better. So it's gotten incrementally better from September, got better in October, and we're really pushing hard on it. For all the patches out through the end of the year, just improving that. That's one example of a feature, for example. But yeah, there's a lot of work to do there, but yeah.
And we'll come back to it, but I want to emphasize too, like you just said, this is something that we're looking at,
Absolutely.
continuous improvement over the long term. Like people, we've been talking about the hardening pass, and it was definitely super important to get that in the October update, but that's not the hardening pass. It is a hardening pass.
It's one of many.
Yeah.
Yep. It's not the one. It's one of many.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure.
So that's like a something that I think needs to be emphasized. It's like we're continuously moving towards perfecting everything that we can. As much as we can do on our side.
Yeah. No, it's always been a priority for us, and it's. We have a very small team, so we're juggling a lot of different concerns. We have features like October is a really good example. We have a new champion who was very, very different from all of our other characters. Her ability was very different, so there was a lot of work that needed to be done there. And then we had a new game mode,
brand new mode,
which is an awesome mode.
Which is also very different than anything we've had in the game thus far.
Very, very different. So there was a lot of work and time that had to be spent, across our team, to get all that done. Yeah. So it was a really big effort. So I mean, it's just juggling. We have to juggle the priorities.
I mean, that's a thing with game dev, right? You have to think about time and resources, and one of the things is we always want to do as much as we can.
You want to do everything.
You want to put everything in that build, and it's just like. Well, you gotta check the clock sometimes, and how many people can you devote to doing a thing, and you as much as you want to, it's like okay, we gotta space these out and think about these, but they're always in the forefront of your mind is like, oh, I want to do this, or like I've been working on something, because you said you've been working on it since September, some of these things, and it's like like, oh, I want to get these out, like put them into the build kind of thing.
No, it's like I say, it's always really important to us for the perf side as well. It's just, as I say, it's just everything. It's a balancing act, but yeah, it's a focus for us, and there's a lot of good stuff coming down the pipe. A lot of stuff that we're working on right now. Can't go into details just yet.
Yeah,
but
there is stuff coming up from November. Can we talk a little bit about or at least the high
the high level? Like I say, it's just more of everything. We're deep diving even farther on a lot of the core engine features and stuff like that. We're looking at a lot of things that
CPU stuff.
Yeah, the things that have just been kind of niggling us for a while, bugging us for a bit, and just kind of taking dives on those as well and just improving them across the board. So. Like I say, it's a continual process. It's just going to get better.
Yeah, and there's a lot we can do, a lot we can look at doing. It's all about time and resources, but getting it done. Like all of these things that we're getting done, the gore system improvements, the netcode desync stuff. Talked about shotguns. We didn't talk about the maps, but I'll just bring them up really quickly. Like some geometry in the maps too, like some trouble spots, right?
Yeah, I think everyone knew that longest yard had a couple issues.
Because it's that. I mean, it is the longest yard. You have all that draw distance, right?
You
can see everywhere.
Yeah, you can see everything from pretty much every part of the map.
Right.
So definitely that was one of the maps that we looked at and really took a deep dive into and just kind of spent some time working on it. And obviously it's a near and dear map to all of us because all of us Quake fans.
When Adam brought me into his office to show me that he was working on it, and I think I must have bugged him a lot about it too. Probably it was one of the things that I was just like, when are we gonna get longest yard? When are we gonna get longest yard? And he didn't say anything for a while until he like showed it to me finally. He didn't even tell me that you guys have been working on it for a while.
Yeah,
I was just like,
that was one of those things we were trying to keep on the down.
Yeah.
Because it was a passion project. We're like, this is really exciting. We're really happy to get it in, but yeah.
Turned out well. It's super cool that now it's got improvements, so you can actually look into. I remember there was like that issue where if you look towards the middle of the map specifically, there were some issues. So that's gone and done with, which is great. Is there anything I'm missing from this one that I can think of?
Like I say, I think that's mainly it at the high level. Obviously, there's a lot of other things that we're doing and working on. I mean, for this stream, we want to focus on the perf stuff and just let everyone know that it is a continual focus.
Yes.
We do, just to let everyone know as well, just to kind of ask from the community, we do pay attention to everything that we see on the forums and Reddit and Discord and stuff like that. So if you're seeing any issues, the more information you can give, the better. We are looking at all the issues, any issues that we find from the community. Anybody who says like, hey, I have this configuration and we're seeing problems, the more info that they give us, the more we can, glean from that and try to figure out, what specifically might be going on there and what we can do to solve it.
Yeah, and Tokyo and I are always out there reading the forums, reading Reddit, reading Steam, looking at all these things.
Yeah, I think we're checking just about everything.
we're checking everything. I mean, we are in all places, often at all times. Between short bouts of sleep, and even then, it's you wake up and you're like, okay. New Reddit thread. Okay, maybe, what did they give us here? But yeah, as John said, let us know if you are seeing anything, and let us know your configurations because that's super helpful. Because there have been times before where we can identify some common thread in systems, and we've solved some issues. I remember there have been some.
We've solved lots of issues actually that way.
Yeah.
So just the more details that you have, like machine configuration, obviously, network specs, configuration, also any extra programs that you run. I know a lot of people in the community like to run like tuning programs or overclocking programs, anything to boost frame rate, that type of stuff. Just let us know if you have those or if you are running them and what they're called and stuff like that, because we've seen some things related to those. It can sometimes at certain settings. Yeah, it's just important to know, just so we can kind of look at everything.
Yep. So thanks, John. Appreciate it. And to all of you out there, hope you're enjoying all the performance updates, and let us know what you're seeing out there. Let us know your system specs if you are seeing anything. And with that, I think we'll kick it off, and we'll be right back with John and Joshua.
All right. Bye, guys.
See ya.
Quake
Hello,
fam.
everyone.
Yeah, Tokyo Punch out here, joining me by
John Hill, Esports Manager.
0-4 might have heard of him. Might have got beat by him
Back in the day.
in the past, or maybe even recently. Dude, there's been so much craziness. We've had tournament after tournament, and there's so many more up and coming, even in this month.
Yes, October is packing quite the punch of tournaments this month. We both Tokyo and I just got back from Romania,
Yeah.
where we just were able to witness such a great event by PGL.
Yeah.
We had our dual open tournament. It was our first dedicated dual tournament where we saw the best players around the world battling it out over 3 days, and really seeing the sort of skill that Quake has. Watching Quake as an esports is really something. It's an art. It's something you can celebrate, tell your friends about. It's easy to understand, and we were able to witness that over these 3 days. The production was really great. The players were great. Something different and unique about this event than any of our other events was that we didn't have a live audience. So what we were able to do was really get intimate with all the players. Get their
super intimate.
Understand how they play. Get a lot of interviews from these players. Get their personality.
Yeah.
Not only are these guys great Quake players and just gamers, but they're sweethearts. They're really great people, and they've got great personalities. So, Josh and I were lucky enough to really dive into that and watch that firsthand. And as you all watched, and if you didn't watch, this is a spoiler, but Rafa came up on top, first place, played a Cooler, who's still playing. He's still got his his skills, and he had a really amazing tournament. Yeah. Followed by Claus and Kilson, and not only that, but the top 8, the top 16. This was a very stacked tournament. I mean, you had people from all over the world. I don't think we were missing a single top player here.
Yeah.
And it was really a great event to watch.
It was, yeah. I mean, seeing matches first of all, there was some new blood. So, people we've seen Razy at some tournaments, and Razy dominates online, but he showed, as always, that he is an absolute monster on LAN. And then Sirius came out of nowhere. Again, Sirius online, a lot of people have been like, oh my god, is this LG real? Is this dude a bot? Are you a bot? No, he's not. He's not a bot. His LG is legit, to the point where you even had people like Raf at the end, acknowledging all the players and saying yeah, this guy's serious, coming out of nowhere. Huge props
Sirius,
to his LG.
CNZ,
yeah.
Wenger had an
CNZ
amazing
also,
tournament.
Yeah. Oh, Wenger,
We've got all these new players that are really starting to, it's not easy going into your first or second or even third LAN.
Yeah.
You really got to build up that experience. And so,
Chain too.
Chain.
Yeah.
He's one of those as well who, has seen some success in the past.
Yeah.
And now he's really trying to take it to that next level. Yeah. So these players, great performance, and it's gonna, as we talk more about this month, actually, you'll see some of these players again.
We will
battling it out
pretty soon, doing some dual stuff. So I think we're gonna cut to a couple of fun clips here. First, we're gonna cut to. I'm a little biased. All the matches were fantastic, and there really isn't one that I was like, oh yeah, that's not fun to watch, because they were all top level. But Maestro Razy versus Maestro Claus was it was like Jordan Bird level stuff for me. It was just fade away, dunk, stuff. It was insane. So we got a clip from that we're gonna show, and then right after that we're gonna cut into what might just be our favorite Quake Champions moment of the year so far, and you'll see who that is, and you'll know who that is when you see it. So let's cue up some of those real quick.
Fights wisely. Yeah. Claus is trying to cycle these items over. He finally spots him out, and that's the duo coming through. And with that first rail landing, Claus has the stack to battle Razy. Razy shouldn't be able to escape as the LG's looking good, and Razy does it! Somehow, without the dual wield anymore, and without the stack.
This could be it. It could be all over at the moment. There's a totem there to help him out. He goes out with the pummel, but Rafa's going to do it. He'll take the PGL Quake Champions Open.
And Rafa's got to be happy about that too, Zoot. He's only had a top 4 placing in the entirety of Quake Champions when it's come to Duel, and now he's got his first title under his belt, and more importantly, 3 titles in this year. No one can deny it's the year of Rafa, as he's going to lift the fantastic trophy, and he has to be so happy about it.
He must be buzzing, I think. Best player in the world right now. That's what we're looking at.
Yeah, again, like he grinds so hard, and in general, he's a shining star within the community. The time he takes to give back to the community by ending a stream by doing 20 minutes of AMAs, streaming his scrims so people can learn how to play better. He puts in the work. Everyone's thankful for it. And now, to get that victory under his belt, he has to feel so good.
That's got to be a relief. The time he's put into it this weekend.
We were just saying I could watch that for the rest of my life and be like, if I wake up and fall asleep to that, like, good dreams, solid sleep. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I mean,
savvy.
Didn't know he had that great of a personality, and now one of my favorite players, by far.
Definitely. And let's talk for a second about, there was the Rafa Cooler, the last frag, and then the celebration afterwards. That's a lot of emotion we see at a Liquid Rafa that we haven't seen before.
I saw a smile.
There's a smile in there. There's a smile. I wonder why that happened.
Yeah, no, I don't think you wanted that to happen again.
We may or may not have trolled him on the PAX West stream with some Pee-wee, but you know what? That's never again will Rafa be Pee-wee Herman when he's winning and he's smiling and he's emoting.
He will always be smiling from now on.
Huge shout out to the awesome performance from everybody, and of course to Liquid Rafa for taking it down.
Yep.
And that was his first Quake Champions duel first place win.
Victory, yeah.
Yeah.
So it really meant a lot to him, as you saw. You know, if that room was dead silent, and the moment he won, you had to cover your ears because he was pretty loud.
Yeah, that was awesome.
But it was great, awesome.
Yeah,
awesome job.
But now we've got some super exciting announcements, 2 of which no one knows about, and 1 of which people do. Let's start with one that no one knows about yet.
No, this one's announced. A lot of people know ESWC. It's coming. Paris Games Week, October 26th to 27th.
Yeah.
There's going to be some invited players, not announced yet. They will be from Europe and from France, and they're going to duke it out in some duels. Some of the top players.
Play with this logo.
I'm
trying to play with the logo. How do I do it? There we go. I'm going to hold it.
I think you got it.
Jesus, this is harder than it looks.
No, it's not working.
Precious logo. It's really hard to do. That's good. Holding it there.
So once again, this is going to be a really great competition.
Yeah.
You know, ESWC is a staple when it comes to Quake. It's been a competition over the last probably decade or more.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of great matches, and we hope to continue that on going forward.
Yeah, and the French casters are going to be back.
Oh yeah.
Which is always a good time.
Some of the most hype casters are out there.
So good. So shout out to them. Look forward to that. But at the same time that's going on.
Right now we're also in Australia.
Yeah.
We're running some qualifiers for our PAX Australia.
Yep.
The top 4 duo teams, are going to compete on a single-day tournament, October 26th.
Yep.
Winners of that will get a paid trip to DreamHack Winter to compete in duel and 2v2.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that. That's going to be really great. That is such a passionate community out down there, and we love to see them play, and then we love to see them fly out and compete with the rest of the top players in the world, and it's always really exciting because they always, even though the community is a little bit smaller in Australia, the top players come out and they really pack a punch. They take down some really tough talent, and they just bring it. So really excited to see that.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge shout out to like Micro05, all the Four Seasons boys down there. Corvidae, of course, you got like Nacy and Spud. Spud is going to be doing some casting in that too, which I'm excited about. And even though this ESWC asset is lit, I think we have another one for Australia that we can maybe queue up here in a second for that. Okay. But one last thing, we got to talk about a tournament that we've never talked about before, and that is
Luca.
Oh, we're cut right now?